create this wonderful solution that they then have to hustle to find a market for. The third common problem we see is perfectionism. It's trying to get all your ducks in a row, get it all perfect before you launch because, yeah, it has to just be tip top perfect. I'm hearing some feedback. Can someone go on mute? It's trying to get all your ducks in a row, get it all perfect before you launch because, yeah, it has to. I like the sound of my own voice. Sounds wonderful. I'm hearing some feedback. Can you go on mute? Someone go on mute. Joe, can you help me? I think somebody needs to go on mute because I'm getting feedback. See if I can find them. I like the sound of my own voice. Sounds wonderful.
Okay, let me start something here.
Somebody needs to go. Okay, that stopped. Great. Thank you, Bill. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. All right, so third one is perfectionism. The fourth common mistake that we see working with entrepreneurs is spending lots and lots of money on ads because they're trying to find product market. They're trying to generate demand on this thing that they've created and without being quite clear on how to market it. So a lot of money is given very generously to Mark Zuckerberg, and you get very little ROI off the back of it. And then the final one is struggling to scale the business. So creating something that is just impossible to grow and scale. So these are the five common themes we see when we work with like small business owners. The issues we see tend to fall into these five categories. The goal of today's session is to talk you through each one of these, but from more of a solution lens for you to see it as what the problem is and see what potential solutions could be, and also see how you might go about solving that for your business, and then also creating a 30-day launch plan if you haven't started already, a launch plan to get you started, launched, and ready to go. If that sounds good, let me get a yes. And then secondly, can you tell me which of these five resonate the most with you in the chat, please? I'm curious. I get a few yeses. Thank you. Perfectionism. Thank you. Struggling to scale. Okay, great, great, cool. So perfect. So I get 2 for perfectionism and 5, so 2 for struggling to scale. Great. So I'm glad to see that a few of this is resonating with you guys. Great. Okay, let's get into it. Thank you for the engagement. It helps because I know you're following. So the objective of our session today would be, I'll be showing you clearly how you can target a profitable niche. So how you can identify what your niche, at least your starting point niche would be, how you can identify that with some kind of process I'll talk you through. I'll show you how you might want to consider going about creating an irresistible offer or product that is clear and that you can then articulate to your ideal market. And that will then attract and show you how you can go about attracting more of your ideal markets to you and ultimately getting them to pay for your services. So that's the goal of our presentation today, and a little bit about me. So as you know, my name is Yemi Oluseun. I come from a long, long line of small business owners. My background is I used to deliver large scale transformation programs for big, large investment banks. And then I did a fancy MBA at London Business School, and I thought I need to go back to my entrepreneurship heritage. And I always wanted to work with small business, but I could not for the life of me work out how my fancy investment banking skills was relevant to small business, right? It's like, who cares that I know how to process a swap and I know how to process a bond? And I know, it's like nobody cares as a small business owner. So how does that even make any sense for small businesses? But then thankfully, something called COVID was actually a blessing for me because it meant that I could then spend time with small business owners and hang out with them in lots of different communities. And by doing so, I then got to realize that really the skill set that I have or that I've built over these years of working with big investment banks is growth and go to market. So I essentially spent over a decade helping these businesses grow and expand into new markets. And how we did that was by being good with process, so being able to identify clear processes. So taking a chaotic situation, finding a through line, having a clear process, and then because it's streamlined, it's then easier to grow and to scale. So that's the same skill set that I've now taken and used to launch my business, the Change Hive. And at the Change Hive, what we do is we partner with B2B service businesses predominantly, and we help them grow with retention-led strategies. So we show them how they can expand, how they can grow the lifetime value of their current customers by offering them better services and building stronger relationships, and also by getting better quality reviews so they have stronger case studies and they're better able to articulate the value that they add. And then thirdly, we show them how to grow with the referrals and to get referrals coming through the door. So you have warmer leads and you're not kind of having to hustle through to get a brand new customer and going on several first dates and never convert into anything meaningful. So that's what we do. So what sets us apart is we're very data-led and market insights informed. So it's not just intuition. We try to be very data informed and have like clear dashboards and show our clients how to create clear dashboards. And for our work, we've won a number of awards and been recognized by a number of large institutions. So all that to say, you're in very safe hands today. I'm going to be sharing with you some of the experiences and insights that we've gathered through the journey. Show of hands. Can't see your faces though. Show of, I don't know, virtual hands. When anybody thinks about growing or starting a business, is this the image that comes to mind? Just running faster on a hamster wheel and hoping, praying that magically something would just happen and the heavens would align. Is that the image that comes to mind? Just go faster, go faster. Because if that resonates, then but just can I get a yes in the chat or a virtual show of hands? Because for many business owners, that tends to be the thought that comes to mind when they think about growth is like, let's just try different strategies and hopefully something would stick and would resonate. Frederick says, no, great, Frederick. Good to see that you seem a lot more organized. Great. That's not usually the case. I usually get, yes, that's exactly the image. I feel like I just need to do so much more. I'm trying all these different strategies and nothing is really seeming to work and I feel very overwhelmed. So growth tends to be very aligned or seem to be seen as sometimes quite overwhelming. A lot of the reasons for that is not having a clear process through the journey. So, but hopefully after this, you can then start to see how that would not be the case going forward. So the cost of failure actually for starting a business is today at the lowest it's ever been. Because back in the day, before the internet, when you thought about starting a business, what that usually meant was you had to go to the bank, get out a big loan, risk your health, risk so much just to launch your business. But these days, it's potentially a lot more easier to start because you can experiment and iterate uh, and get the market to validate your idea. And as it validates it, you then invest more. But very often, sometimes that process is not clear and we don't always go through that. So I'm hoping that I'll show you some ideas of how you might deploy this in your businesses so you can reduce the risk of launch and test ideas and make sure the market validates it before you then go and invest a whole lot into it. So let's get into it. We already talked about the common mistakes that we see, right? So these are the 5 common mistakes we typically see. But these mistakes can be resolved if we do these 5 key things. The first one is if we take the time to really deeply understand our unique personalities, our unique strengths as business owners, right? Is what is your moat as an individual? What makes you special? What's the magic trick that you can pull out of the hat that the next person can't easily do? And it could be something like, hey, I've got an extensive network of other mums because I've been the chair of the Mum Association. I've got 4 kids. I go to XYZ school, or I'm the Sunday school teacher in my church. So I've got this great network of other mums that like me. So it's what are the special strengths that you have um, that you might be overlooking, and how can you harness it in your business launch process, right? Because too often we get too familiar with ourselves and we miss our own genius and we go chasing after somebody else's genius and we're trying to be like them when really we're sitting on gold. So it's what is the gold you're sitting on that you haven't really fully harnessed? And I'll talk through in a minute how you might go about discovering that. Second is really taking the time to really understand the pain point. So it's what exactly is the problem you're looking to solve? Usually, of course, you've identified it from your own experience or from, observation or from research, but articulating that into 2 sentences and then going out to market to ask other people that you think might also be impacted by the problem to see if they agree that is really a problem for them. And then quantifying the problem, right? Is it just 2 people in the world that have it? Or are there thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that agree that this is a need or a gap that needs to be solved? So Again, we'll talk about how you might go about doing that. Third is around really being able to clearly articulate who your ideal client profile is. So your ICP, ideal client profile. So who is the ideal customer? Who's your dream customer? What do they look like? What do they think? What are the pains? What language do they use to describe the problem? What is their dream outcome? So really, really getting into the psyche, the psychology, and being able to explain the problem with their language in a way that they feel seen and heard is important. That's the third. The fourth one is then around the product or the service that you will be creating, right? Is now you understand the pain point. What is your proposed solution? What is the offering that you're bringing out? And how can you articulate that offering in a way that you can explain it succinctly? You don't need a whole paragraph. We don't have to write War and Peace, but what in a minute, in one or two sentences, you can articulate what it is that you do in a way that your ideal customer hears that and is like, oh, that's me. I want a piece of that, right? And then fifth, we'll talk about how you might go about iterating and testing to make sure you find something that is technically called product market fit. Does anybody come across that term, product market fit? Does it mean anything to anybody on the call? Yeses, nos. I wish I could see your faces and have multiple screens. Nods. Does anybody kind of know what that means? Product market fit? No? Okay, great. I can explain. So product market fit is the point where you have a very clear product. So three things happen when you have product market fit. Clear product, clear market, and a repeatable way of presenting the product to the market with expected outcomes, right? So you know that provided I have a room full of moms that have children between, say, 2 to 10, and I present, I don't know, XYZ products in a particular way, then I know that usually 20% of them will convert, right? So when you have that level of predictability in your sales, so you know who you're talking to, you know how to pitch it to them, and you know what usually the expected outcome would be, at that point you have product market fit. That is the point where really, ideally, you want to start then maybe looking to do ads or looking to do adding more fuel to the fire because you now know that the market has given you the nod, yes, 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 yes. So it's like, okay, now let's get this party started. We can open up the floodgates and use ads to really turbocharge the process. So let's go into each one by one. The first one being around personality. So being really clear on what your strengths are, what makes you special. Also, what are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? Like, so what's the low-hanging fruits that you have that you can quickly tap into? And also, what are the potential threats uh, that could sabotage your entire process? And how you might want to go about doing that. So I just explained that, right? So it's what makes you unique as a business. So it's the key question. Actually, I'm curious because I want to keep this quite engaged and interactive, being a Friday afternoon of a long weekend as well. Does anybody already know? Have you guys given any thoughts to what makes you special or what makes your business unique? Have you guys give me a two in the chat if you've already kind of thought about it and you can clearly articulate, yes, I know why I'm special and know my unique mode. Two, great. I see two twos. Great, cool. Thank you. If you haven't, I think this is something that's worth putting on a to-do list, especially for this long weekend, to ponder about. And I'll show you a few tools that you might want to leverage to do the exercise. A tool I really like, if you're ever struggling with purpose or, why am I here? If you ever perhaps have existential type crisis and questioning, I think the Ikigai tool is a really good one to explore. Um, if you're not familiar with it, I'll just quickly give you a quick overview of what Ikigai is. So Ikigai is a Japanese principle that means reason for being. And essentially, it's four concentric circles. So it's your passion, it's your mission, it's your vocation, and your profession. And the idea is that if you find something that overlaps all four, so you find something that you're passionate about, is something that the world needs as well, so it's on mission, it's something that you can be paid to do, so it aligns with a vocation, and it's something that you are good at doing, right? So it's a profession. So if you find something that aligns with all four beautifully and perfectly, then that is your ikigai. Doing that kind of thing means that you find joy. You find it easy to you are motivated to do it. You find joy doing it. People need it as well, and people are happy to pay for it. So it's a win-win-win-win-win all round, and everybody's in flow. So thinking about those four questions and being able to answer all four and finding the overlap between all four really then becomes quite important, right? As a key to identifying what could potentially be your purpose. And of course, as we all know, right, this is never fixed. So it's never a once and done exercise because life is always shifting um, around us. So you do it once, you kind of feel like, yeah, this is my purpose in the season, and it might transition. So it's being cognizant of that even as you build your business because you are changing as the owner. So it's making sure the business is still aligned with who you are now and who you think you're becoming. Tools that you might want to consider as you develop it for yourself are what we've listed here, right? So in terms of thinking about what you love to do, there's a tool that I really like. It's called Careers Anchor. You can Google, these tools are all free and you can find them on Google quite easily. So doing a quick Google search for Careers Anchor essentially categorizes people into 8 different categories of the types of work that we enjoy. So some people like very technical type work. Some people are more creative. Some people are more lifestyle based. So it's being clear on what type of work you like. That tool, if it doesn't, these tools are to be a guide and to amplify your own intuition. If you already have a very powerful kind of instinct and intuition, you don't need these tools. They're just there if you need something to guide you. The second one being around the UN SDG goals. So the UN, the United Nations, has categorized the world's needs into 17 distinct categories. So like poverty, women's needs, education, and on and on and on and on. I think it does a wonderful job of showing you very quickly where the key needs are in the world. And ideally, you want to try and make sure you're setting up a business that touches one of these need areas, right? So it's you can argue that, well, my business is a vitamin, is not a painkiller, but an ideal business I want to offer to you will have a mix of both, right? Is you solve an immediate pain, an immediate need, and then also give them some vitamins as well. So think about it as baking the vegetables into the dessert, right? So it's a you give them what they need wrapped around what they would like as well. So it's a making sure what you're creating taps into a need because then it becomes easier to attract people that have an emotional pull to what you're offering. The third one being around what you're good at. Great tool for this is the MBTI tool, the Myers-Briggs. I think this one is quite a popular tool, right? So most people are probably already familiar with it. If you're familiar with this, can you just put for me in the chat what your Myers-Briggs is if you've already done this before? So me, for example, mine is ENTJ. So extrovert, intuitive, thinking, judge. So Myers-Briggs, for those who don't know, um, yes, with MBTI, but yeah, great. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah, that's fair, Michael. Yeah, but I'm curious, Michael, what your Myers-Briggs is, your MBTI? INTJ, great. So for those that don't know, Myers-Briggs actually is a really good tool. So it's a psychometric type tool that categorizes people across 4 key parameters. It tells you whether you're mostly introverted or mostly extroverted. It tells you how you like to make decisions, if you're more intuitive, like gut feel, or if you're more sensory, like, no, give me the facts, the data. I want to see the numbers, before you can decide. It tells you again, how you tend to process events. Are you more of a thinker? Are you more of a feeler? So if you're a T, you're more thinker. If you're F, you're more of a feeler. It's like, oh, I feel, or I think. And finally, it tells you how you like to make decisions. If you're a J, you're quite decisive. It's like, hey, let's get to the point and kind of narrow the options. If you're a P, you're more perceptive. Like, let's kind of leave the options open and see how things play out. There's no right one or wrong one, or it just it is what it is. It's kind of your default way of how you process and how you see life. The key here is to know what your default state tends to be and stack the deck or stack the odds in your favor. Create a business that plays more to your strengths and less so to your weaknesses. And again, it doesn't mean that because you find that you do the test and you find you're mostly introverted, that it means you can never do extroverted things. No, that's not what it means. It just means you're most likely going to be more comfortable doing introverted things. So if you find that, for example, in your business, certain things require some extroverted type traits, then those activities become your frogs, right? And I don't know if you read is it Brian Tracy of Eat the Frogs, right? The things that don't quite lean to your strengths, but right now you still have to do because you haven't hired a team that you can delegate it to, where it's important. If you know that this is your weaknesses, then you have to proactively plan it and put it in your calendar so that it gets done, right? And then actively grow your business so that you can eventually hire somebody that is good at the stuff you're not so good at. And you could delegate it to them, not in a never see it again, but it's like delegate so they can do the doing and then you can track it because ultimately you're still responsible for your business, but you don't have to do stuff that you're not good at if you can afford to delegate it. And then vocation, honestly, these days ChatGPT would do it for you, right? You put in all these three parameters and say, hey, here's what I'm good at, what I love, what the world needs. What kind of things do you think what would you suggest um, I should start as a business? Like ChatGPT, I think would be great. Back in the day, I used to say things like go on job boards or go on, LinkedIn and scroll and, eventually something would jump at you, but ChatGPT would be my go-to for that. Was that useful? Can I get a yes or a one or questions? Does that make any sense? Does that make sense? Oh, I've put an example here of how you might go about asking ChatGPT. So I'll say something like, I'm working on my ikigai. Here's my career anchors. Tell it as much as, of course, with ChatGPT, right? Garbage in, garbage in, garbage out. So the more data you feed in, the better the quality of the feedback you get back, right? So the more you can tell it about yourself and what you're working on, the more it will give you more useful advice. And then you can have that back and forth with it to really sharpen the idea. So that was it for really personality, right? So I want to invite you to please, over the weekend, to think about what are your strengths, so at least three kind of strengths that you have. And also like your unique selling point. Now, this might seem very touchy-feely, right? It's like, yeah, listen, I just need to make some money. I don't really care about my strengths. It's not about me. Yes, but no, because ultimately, as the business owner, your strengths and your values are the basis of the culture of the organization that you then end up building because you'll end up attracting people like yourself, right? So you want to be proactive and know what, because if you're not careful, what would happen would be when you start hiring, you'll probably hire somebody exactly like you and you wonder why work never gets done because you're both extroverts and nobody wants to do the introverted stuff like doing the accounting or doing the bookkeeping, so that never gets done, right? So by you being clear on your own strengths, your own values, you can be proactive at defining your culture, defining what kinds of people would work best for you as employees, as clients, as suppliers, right? So it all starts with you, right? So clarity on you becomes very foundational to this stuff, right? And also then hopefully starts to kill perfectionism. I think part of the solution for me for perfectionism, right, is knowing, hey, listen, I'm really, really good at one, two, three, four, five things. This is what I'm good at. Everything else is not my bag. So I'm going to make sure that I'm setting up my business in a way that it's leveraging the things I'm good at. The things I'm not so good at, I'm going to outsource or I'm going to do the best I can. But I will trust that I'm only going to work with clients that want to work with me because of these five things I'm good at. If they want me to do XYZ is not my strength. So off the bat, when we have the discovery call, or we have the conversation, I will be very clear, like Marmite, kind of like how I said to you, we help B2B service businesses. We don't really work with product providers. We don't work with B2C per se, right? Because we're really good with B2B service businesses. Hopefully that helps. I'm not sure who said perfectionism was a hindrance sometimes to their growth. I find doing this exercise really well starts to really put a chopper down that whole perfectionism problem. Yeah, cool. Again, any questions, put it in the Q&A or in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on it so I can make sure I'm keeping this tailored to what you guys want. Second key or second pillar to consider as you think about launching your business and growing your business is being very clear on the pain point, right? So being sure that you've identified a problem that is a problem. Um, oh, yeah. So similar to the Ikigai, kind of what we just talked about right now, right? People pay for stuff that they need, right? Because if you find something that you're good at, but the world doesn't need, then that really is a hobby, right? It's like, yeah, good for you. You found a really cool hobby. You found something that the world needs, but you're not so good at, then it becomes a chore, right? You're like, oh my God, they paid me all this money, but I hate to do the job. And it's like, this is when you start to have the Sunday blues, right? Sunday evening comes along and you're like, oh man, my mood just dropped. I'm getting anxiety and panic attacks because I have to go to this thing that this monster that I've created by myself as a business owner that I don't even like, but people are wanting to buy from me. So it's important that you're clear on exactly so you want to find something that is a mix of both, right? So what they need, what you're good at is the sweet spot. And how you might go about doing that is this five-step process over here. First one is identify a problem, right? And that problem might come from your own personal experience, something you've say, I don't know, care problem with kids, whatever, problem you've identified in your personal experience, or research or observation. Start with a problem. Then the second step tends to be something that we miss. I find that most entrepreneurs sometimes miss, right? Is really validating the problem with potential, it says clients, but really it's potential users or potential clients because they're not yet your clients. So the goal is to validate it with them by asking, you're not asking leading questions, right? Is to ask some questions. I'm not sure if I've got it in this slide. If I haven't, at the end, I'll offer you an opportunity to reach out and I can send you a cheat sheet that has some of these questions, but I'm not sure. I got my team to update this slide for me recently, so this is my first time actually using the revised slide. So if I stumble a bit, that's what's happening. Is I'm trying to remember that the order has changed a little bit since, but I can give you a list of potential questions that's worth asking clients when you ask the question, right? So what's been your experience with XYZ problem? What other things have you tried? What has worked? What hasn't worked? Why haven't they worked? How much have you spent? I think that's a very important question. How much have you spent on solving the problem so far? What will be the potential financial benefit, if any, if it's financial, or the life benefit, or what's the benefit for you to solving this problem? I think it's important to make sure that they do have the problem that you think they have. They are actively trying to solve it. They have spent some money or spent some time. How much time? You know what's worked for them, what hasn't worked. You know, the things that haven't worked, why didn't it work? Is it them? And then also what's the benefit if they do solve it is important. And then segmenting the audience becomes important as well. So you interview a broad spectrum of people and then you start to see patterns, right? You may see that, oh, it's mostly, so I have this, say, career coaching, right? I like the career coaching example because everybody can relate to it mostly. Oh, you want to be a career coach because you've noticed the gap in the market with people struggling to get into work. You may interview grads, you may interview moms that want to go back to work, you may interview mid-level managers that are trying to get a promotion but struggling with technology and all this AI stuff, or people leaving the army. So you start to see that there's groupings of people, right? And you may find that following your interview, different groups have slightly different nuances to it. It's important to bear that and to make a note of that. Because when we come to marketing in a minute, we'll see that being able to articulate the problem using the language that your audience would resonate with is super important. And the only way you can do it sometimes is if you are niched down or talking to a specific type of customer, right? Because the kind of things that a mom would respond to will probably be different to what a grad would respond to. A mom would be looking for more work-life balance, more like time with kids and, being able to do their work and also in the evening spend time with the kids. A graduate is looking for more like training, international visibility, and all that kind of cool stuff because they're much younger in their career, right? So being clear on the segments, sizing the opportunity. Again, if you have these potential demographics in buckets, they would have different dollar amounts, right? So a grad or graduates might be a lot more, there might be a lot more of them and easier to find, but maybe not so profitable, right? Because they're graduates, they just finished university, they haven't got any money to pay for your services. Moms might maybe be more work for you to find, but maybe more profitable because if they're married, maybe their partner can subsidize or pay for your services whilst they get a job and on and on. So really sizing the opportunity in terms of absolute size, but also like financially, how financially profitable is that market? And then finally, thinking about the macro environment, right? Is there anything that's likely going to change in politics, in the economy, in the law that may or may not impact your proposed idea? Sometimes it might be to your benefit. Sometimes it might be a threat, right? So being aware of it and making sure you're baking that into your launch plan, right? Because you don't want to launch and be tone deaf, right? imagine trying to launch, I don't know, a DEI business right now with the current state, right? So diversity and inclusion type space maybe might not be a good space to get into given our current circumstances, right? So those five the key things become important to defining your pain point. Does that make any sense? Can I get a yes, a two, questions? Oh my God, you're going too fast. Give me some feedback. Thank you. See yeses, two yeses. Only two. Frederick says yes. Great. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Great. Appreciate the feedback. Okay. So the goal here is to find approach potential clients, right? So uh, not potential clients is important. So because you want to approach them as a researcher, you don't want to because you don't want to kind of go with a whole sales pitch, right? Because then it's like, oh no, leave me alone, I'm fine, I don't want to buy it. Or you may just get like, yes, 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 because they're your friends and your family. And it's like, yeah, yes, this is the best thing ever. Right. So you want to try and approach people as a researcher. And I think the best ways to do it usually sometimes is with people that don't really know you that well. And for most business ideas, I find that you would find there's usually a group on Reddit or Quora or Facebook group for every business. There's if you're trying to start a business and there's no Reddit or Quora group that is related, I'm like, are you too early? Or are you doing something that you're the only one in the world, right? So usually you find a forum in one of these um, platforms, right? And you want to try and aim for ideally 30 to 50. I know it sounds like a big number, but it's an ideal, right? So ideally 30 because 30 is the minimum statistically significant number, right? I think less than 30, uh, it's kind of hard to, say to base a decision on that. So if you can get to 30, would be ideal. And ideally try and do it in person or video call because you want to see body language if you can, right? So that'll be kind of how I'll go about it. So the exercise here, I'd like to invite you to identify, first of all, what the problem is that you think you have identified as a business owner, right? Who do you think your potential clients might be? Find them on the best places to connect with them, either online or offline. I've given you some online examples. You may have some offline ones. Being a business owner, you probably would know. And draft some questions, right? And ask them. And go, say, hey, would you mind jumping on the call? I'm doing some research in blah, blah, blah area. What are your thoughts? Now, if you do this exercise well, you would potentially have a potential client because what happens is when you ask for, I don't know, there's a famous maxim, I'm not sure if you guys have heard this, right? You ask for money, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get money. So now you're going to approach them for advice. And as they start to give advice, they start to get invested in your solution. So once eventually, in subsequent slides I'm going to show you now, you create a solution, guess what? You can go back to them and say, hey, by the way, we spoke 2 weeks ago about blah, blah, blah. Remember? Yes. Okay. I have a solution for you. Would you like to hear it? Of course, I'd like to hear it. And then you can pitch and potentially they might be interested and become a client. So this is not just an admin exercise. This could potentially become part of your business development if it's done correctly. If that makes sense, let me get up three in the chat, please. I want to make sure you guys are still following. Three. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, the third one, persona, crafting a clear ideal customer profile. So being clear on exactly, oh, you're struggling with that ethically. Michael, do you want to tell me some more in the chat? Why are you struggling with that ethically? I'm curious. But I'll keep going and then I'll come back to tell me some more, or if not, I'll come back to you at the end. So defining a clear ideal client profile, right? So being clear on exactly who you're selling to. Because guess what? You don't like everybody, so everybody would probably not like you as well. And it's okay because we're not going to be the right fit for everybody. So being clear on who is it that you're talking to and head down talking to them. And there's four criteria you want to consider, I think, when it comes to defining your ideal customer profile, right? Is number one, we're a business. We're in business to be profitable and to do good, right? You have to do well to do good. So it is exactly, Frederick, we don't want all clients, just we want clients that are right for us and that we're right for them as well. It has to be mutually beneficial. So the first one is profitable. Can they afford to pay for your services? So the example I gave of students, for example, students are great. You probably want to help them, but they might not be able to afford to pay for your services. If you do want to work with them, then you have to find a way to find a third party that can sponsor your work so you can go serve them, right? So either get government grant or you do something else. That means you can then profitably and sustainably serve those clients. Second is there has to be a clear need, right? So this can be a, oh yeah, I think I want it, I'm not sure. And this is why the previous exercise is important, right? So when you interview them, you want to ask them, have you had a problem? What are you currently doing to solve it? If the answer is no, nothing, I'm just kind of thinking about it, then maybe it's not really that important of a need, right? It's kind of like me trying to learn French. I've been wanting to, I want to learn French. What are you doing about it? Nothing. Nothing. So am I a serious customer? No, I'm not, right? So that's why that interview becomes important because you can start to sift and see who is just talking but not doing anything and who is actually actively doing something to try and solve it. Third, ideally a growing market, right? You don't want to be chasing after a market that's actively shrinking. For example, trying to get into the newspaper business or the physical magazine business maybe might not be a good idea because I don't know, I'm not sure that that's a growing market space unless you've got something incredibly, I don't know, incredible angle to that marketplace. Maybe that's not the right place to be. And then number four, that your ideal client finds you credible, right? So you want to be going after a client base that is easy for you to find. And when you find them, they're like, yes, I want to talk to you because there's that rapport, we get each other, we can speak the same language, and there's that like trust that can be built quite quickly. Yeah, so thinking about these four things becomes important when you want to define who your ideal customer might be. Does that make sense? Can I get a 3 again in the chat for pillar 3, if pillar 3 makes sense? And Ross should give me some feedback on that. Great. The key thing here is please don't get into perfectionism. There is no perfect niche, right? Is find one, stick to it, do the best you can with that whole interview process and try and have some logic behind your decision, right? Find one, stick to it, try and get your first 30 or so clients. Again, 30 being because it's the minimum, is the statistic is the minimum number of statistically significance, right? Below that, it's not enough. It's too small of a data sample size to really make a decision. So you want to kind of try and get your first 30 clients within that niche and see how you get on. If it's not working, then you can reassess and change. But ideally, pick one type of client so that all your languaging and your messaging, you can be talking, you can have them in mind when you write your messaging. Yeah. Okay, so the exercise task after this is to, evaluate. So some of you guys have already started and already, so I know this, I think I didn't ask this at the start, my error. I think some people have already started and are active and some want to start. Can I just actually get in the chat, please? Put start and put no. Are you wanting or have you started? So want or start? Which what do we have in the audience? I know some people have already started and yes, started, want. Great. Great. Okay. So for the guys that have already started, great. Just look through your existing customers and see, do I have, because part of the challenges to growth is you're trying to be all things to all men, right? It's like this day you're this, then you're that, then you're that. It's like it gets really confusing. It's not standardized enough, and because you're not standardized, you can't rinse and repeat. Because every time you rinse, you have to modify, then repeat, then modify, then repeat. It's like so it slows down your growth. There's a look through your customer base and see if there's a grouping of some sort, and see if there's a opportunity to niche and focus on one if possible. Yeah. So that's the task for that. Next one, pillar 4. Bill, I think I'm not doing very well for time. How much time do we have left? 10 minutes in the chat? Just let me know in chat. But I think I'm nearly done. 10 minutes. So let me try and go through. So we've got 2 more pillars left.
13 minutes.
Okay, great. Yeah. So next one, pillar 4, product, right? Is you want to define or create a product that sells itself. So being able to clearly articulate what your solution is and what your offer is in a way that your target audience hears and they're like, oh my God, yes, where have you been all my life? Take my money already, right? And what that looks like is having 4 key things in your product description, ideally, right? Is so being clear on what the dream outcome is for them. So it's like, what's the outcome? So if I work with you, Francis, Bill, or Frederick, what am I going to get out of it? What's the dream outcome that you're going to promise me? And this is why, again, it becomes important to have done some interview work with the step 2. So that pain point assessment becomes important, right? Because if you spend some time talking to them, you know exactly how they describe what the dream outcome is. So being able to articulate that. So the dream outcome I'm promising you, what's the likelihood that you would achieve it if you work with me, right? So what makes me credible in this space? Is it because I've got, I don't know, done it several times before. I've got certificate, I've got affiliates. What is it that makes me the one that can help this client achieve it, right? Third is around how much time will it take for me to achieve it if I work with you? And then fourth, how much effort would I have to put in to get the result or the outcome that you're promising me? So an example of what that would look like is again to our career coach example. So many career coaches, for example, will say things like, "Oh, get my 6 week career coaching program." It's like, sounds great, but I don't think I want career coaching. It doesn't mean anything to, it's too generic, right? But if as a career coach you said something like, get a 6 figure FANG PM role in 6 interviews or less or your money back, that is more compelling to the right audience. Now, notice I used a bit of a jargon there, FANG PM. This one is debatable. I like it, but you might think otherwise, but do what works for you as the business owner. FANG, does anybody know what FANG means? Tell me yes, no. If not, I'll do a big reveal. No, yes, no, great. Okay, no. Okay, great. FANG are the top five. Now it's called like FANG. At the time, they're the top five tech companies. So it stands for Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, right? And PM is product manager. So within, say I was targeting like young graduates that wanted to get into tech, this would be so appealing to them because they would get this immediately. Like if my audience was fresh grads out of uni, this would mean so much to them. Like they know what they want, a 6 figure job, they want to work with a top tech company, and most of them want to be in the product manager role. And 6 interviews or less, all the money back, right? So I tell them very clearly what the outcome is going to be. I tell them what the likelihood of them achieving it with me is. So in this case, I'm not saying I'm a top, I'm offering them a guarantee. So it's like you either get it or I give you your money back. I don't really particularly like money back guarantees. This is just one example. It could be things like, oh, we'll work with you until you do, or it could be see our 60 reviews. It could be whatever. You can change this to be whatever makes sense for your business. This is just an example. I've told them how much effort they would have to exert to get it, right? So 6 interviews or less, right? And I've told them how much time it will take, so 6 weeks or less as well. So in one sentence, put in front of the right audience, they get it, right? I don't have to explain a many paragraph to them. Just one sentence with the right audience. It's a yes or a no if they're the right fit for it. So hopefully you can start to see how you can deploy that for your business. So another example here is this. So get paid clients in 30 days or less with or without ads. And why? The one is going to work for you because it's worked for over 40 clients before, for example, right? Could be another example of how you might use this formula to explain your product. Does this make sense? Give me a 4 in the chat, or you can see how you can do this for your business. Can I have a 4? Fabulous. Thank you. Great. So the homework for this fourth pillar is to think about this for your business, right? Is how can you define these 4 components for your business and for your offer so that you can craft a clear offer statement. And you decide whether you want to use jargons or not. Like I kind of like jargons where it makes sense to do so because I think it filters off like the wrong audience quite quickly. It's like if you don't know what FANG is, you won't even notice my you just kind of scroll past. But if you know what it is, you're my kind of person, you probably would click on it, right? So you decide, maybe you can test, you could do an A/B test to see whether or not to use jargon. Yeah. Okay, the fifth one, product market fit. You want to get clear signs from the market that they're loving your product and what you're offering them is exactly what they want. This is important, right? Because you want to make sure that before you start to scale and use ads as fuel on the fire, you want to make sure that the market is giving you a big yes, 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 give us more, right? You don't want to just be spending money on ads and hoping and praying that they work. So product market fit is what we talked about earlier, right? It's 3 things happening. You have a clear product, a clear market, and repeatable growth, or essentially a repeatable way of selling or offering the product to the market. And you can predict what the conversion rates are likely going to be every time you offer it, right, consistently. And oh, by the way, I keep saying ads, but also it could be conferences, for example, because you can know, hey, listen, I know that this product is so good, or I'm so clear on who exactly my market is, that I actually don't mind going to XYZ conference because most of the audience in that conference are my people. And I know that if I pitch the product in this certain kind of way, 20% of them will convert, and that will be equivalent to 100 grand in my business. So I don't mind spending 5 grand as an exhibitor on this conference because I know that I'll get 100 grand off the back of it. So you can start to work out ROI on any kind of marketing or investments in your business, right? Um, so a quick way to do this, if you haven't already done, if you haven't already started, so for people that are wanting to get started, right, is the 2 or 3 clients that you talked to in your research stage, because at that time you're just kind of asking them questions to see if it's a good fit for them. You can say, hey, we spoke 2 weeks ago. You told me blah, 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 blah. Based on what you told me, I've now created XYZ product. Do you want to jump on a call again to see what I've created and see if it's a good fit for you? They jump on the call, you explain to them what you have, and there's no pressure. You're not forcing them to buy anything. They could be like, oh, yeah, no, it's not quite for me. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass. But it could be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Yes, please. I'd like to work with you. It's like, great. I'm actually taking on like a few, 2 to 3 clients because I'm looking to build up my testimonials or my reviews. So I'd like to work with you for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks. The shortest possible time for them to get the first aha moment is what you're looking for in this, right? You're not trying to serve them for 6 months. It's what's the shortest minimum viable service product I can give this person so they can test it, give me the nod that it works, give me some testimonials, and then I can go rinse and repeat and do the process again to get more clients, right? So you deliver that, ideally over deliver, get the feedback, and use the reviews and referrals to scale and to get more business. That's kind of how I would use step 5, right? Is you've interviewed, you've gotten the information, you build a product, you test it with who you interviewed, and you see if it is resonating. If it's not, then you go back again and you repeat the process. So exercise 5 is what we just talked about, right? Is to identify, if you haven't, especially if you want to start and you haven't started, identifying 2 to 3 potential clients, either from online forums, LinkedIn, and offer them a low risk trial, right? In exchange for a review. And by getting more reviews and referrals, it then makes it easier to sell future customers or future clients into your service or your product. If that makes sense, give me a 5, please. Or if not, put a question in the chat. Great, cool. I see a few 5s. So putting it all together, we're talking about 5 different things, right? The first one being around, so to really launch your business and to be successful, you want to have an alignment ideally across these 5 key pillars, being clear on what is unique and special about you and also your business, being clear on the problem, being clear on who you're serving, being clear on what you're going to be serving them, and 5, being sure that they really want what you're offering them. So you validated that you're getting the nods and the yeses from them before you can scale. These are the 5 things that I recommend clients do before they launch a new, even existing businesses, before they launch a new service and they go full-fledged out, go through that 5 steps. Now, what this could look like as a 30-day plan, if you're just wanting to start and haven't started, could be week 1 over this long weekend, really doing a deep dive on yourself. So your personality, what makes you special, the pain points, and then defining who you're going to be serving in week 2, then the product in week 3, and then in week 4, doing a lot of product market fit type tests with clients to get reviews and feedback. And you may want to try and use AI. So once you know exactly what you're doing, a good way to kind of get noise and to build your presence might be to use tools like Answer the Public or Google Trends to get keywords within your space. Use ChatGPT and Perplexity to do some research on the space, right? And then there's a tool called EasyGen and Content Drips where you can put that research into those tools and then it would format it into like a LinkedIn friendly type way. And of course, as a human, you should read through and make sure it makes sense. And if it does, you can post it and start to kind of also organically present yourself as the authority and as a leader in the space. So I'll clean up my social media and make sure that it's clear what I'm offering people because I now have a clear offer statement that we talked about how to define. Once that's clear, start having regular organic, posting regularly on socials to get followers and the right audience aware of what you do and how you can serve them. Okay, I think with that I've come to the end. So in the chat, or if Bill is okay, if you could please unmute yourself. I think, Michael, you had a question, or you said you had an ethical problem with step two. Maybe you want to explain. Feel free to unmute and tell me why, and then we can talk about it. So, Michael says, I'm struggling with that ethically for the reason that coming in saying implying no sales, and then we didn't. No, because Michael, it's the truth. There's nothing to sell. Your first intention is because you don't know, because it could be that you go through the process of interviewing 30 customers or 30 potential clients, and you don't realize, listen, this is just a good idea in my head. Nobody else seems to think it's a good idea. Then you end up creating no product, right? Because so you at that point, you don't know if it's actually going to ever materialize. You're honestly researching. You're doing what I'm saying you should do, right? You're going there asking them, do you have this problem? What are you doing to solve it? How much are you spending? Why is what you're doing not working? Because you may do all of that and realize, maybe I don't have anything to offer that's better than what's in the market. But I feel like they accept the meeting because it's an. But that's the intention, Michael. Maybe you want to unmute and talk to me. I'm happy to have a conversation. And I think also you might want to ask yourself, do you see sales as dirty, or do you see if you have a problem with selling, then that might also be a different conversation as well. Because the intention for the first meeting is what we said, right? Is honestly a research meeting. You research, you understand the problem, and then you go when you tinker and you're like, oh, I think I can solve it. And if you have a potential solution, then you then go back and say, hey, I have a solution. Are you interested? If it's a no, then we keep it moving. Um, okay. So any other questions before we wrap up? If not, I'd like to invite you to please, if you took any screenshots from this, feel free to post it on socials and tag us. We also have a scorecard that shows you which of these 5 Ps you might need to work on for your business specifically. I want to invite you to take it. If you still, it might be useful. I would also post it in the chat as well. There you go. So about 20 questions that tells you what what you may want to consider working on as you launch. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Bill, over to you, unless there are any other questions.
Well, there's no other questions. I'd like to thank you, Yemi, for what you presented today. Very concise, focused, and a lot of tools to go along with what you're proposing. So this is good. I'd like to tell the audience that our next webinar will be on the 3rd of June, and it will be on Reach Customers Online with Google, presented by a Grow with Google instructor. And then on the 17th, we'll follow up and have one with increasing sales with Google Tools. So again, thanks a lot. If you could share the presentation with me, that would be great. Other than that, I think that takes care of what we had to do today.